Hello and welcome to another Standard Games video on the official MTG Arena channel. Today we're taking a look at a monowhite Affinity aggro deck. Affinity is a keyword that appears on some artifacts in Magic's past, but we actually have a card in our deck with the Affinity mechanic. The plated Onslaught is a 5 mana instant, but gets a 1 mana discount for each artifact we control, so we can often get it down to just double white. Even with an opposing Thalia, taxing, or non-creature spells with 4 or more artifacts, we'll still be able to cast it for just double white, and then creatures we control get +2/+1 until end of turn. So this is an awesome way to close out the game if we've got enough cheap creatures in play to attack with, and that's very much our goal. With the recent reprint of Gingerbrute, we now have the critical mass of 1 mana artifact creatures to enable this strategy. And then we also have quite a few Convoke cards that we can also easily put on the battlefield by tapping all these 1-drops. So starting out, we've got Gingerbrute, a 1/1 with haste, can also make it pseudo-unblockable, which can help close out the game, and then can also maybe be sacrificed against the red aggressive decks to gain 3 life after maybe chum blocking with it. There's Swooping Lookout, a 1/2 artifact creature with flying and Vigilance is quite useful when playing with a bunch of Convoke cards, because that means we can attack with the Lookout and then still tap it in our second main phase to help convoke out one of our creatures. There's Skrelv, which is another 1 mana artifact creature, can be used to make some of our creatures pseudo-unblockable or maybe protect them from opposing removal. And then there's the Hotshot mechanic, just a 1 mana 2/1 artifact creature in this deck, no vehicles. And then the Yotian Frontliner, a 1/1 that when it attacks gives another creature +1/+1 until end of turn, and can also unearth it for a single white, giving us a bit of a recursion. Then at 2 mana, another nice payoff in an artifact deck is the Patchwork Automaton, has a bit of protection with Ward 2, and whenever we cast an artifact spell, put a +1/+1 counter on it. And then we have 2 copies of Glass Casket, giving us a tiny bit of interaction. Can't afford to run too many interactive spells, since we need that critical mass of creatures to enable our various Convoke cards, and so we can attack with a lethal army alongside plated Onslaught. And besides Onslaught, we also have 4 copies of Reign of Truth, which is another great finisher once we deploy all our creatures first, giving a creature +1/+1 until end of turn for each artifact and or enchantment we control, and then eventually transforming into the Portrait of Michiko, especially effective when paired with our evasive creatures, like the Swooping Lookout, which can attack past any ground creatures, or maybe Gingerbrute after activating it. And then we get to the Convoke creatures, 4 copies of Halo Hopper, kind of a unplayable limited card almost, but quite good in this deck, since we can often play it on turn 2 after playing a bunch more 1-drops, and that's where the Vigilant Lookout also comes in handy, can attack with it first and then still play a turn 2 Halo Hopper. And then we've got the full set of a Knight Errant of Eos, our only non-artifact creature in this deck, but it's here for a reason, since we can often cast it on turn 3 and then find additional creatures to quickly fill the board and set up those lethal Reign of Truths or plated Onslaughts. And then our mana base has plenty of planes, since we need double white for plated Onslaught, and then an Iganjo for a bit more interaction, and then 4 copies of Mishra's Foundry as a nice creature land to help cross the finish line against the more controlling strategies, can also be quite useful. So the deck is pretty budget friendly. If you're looking for a cheap way to maybe do your daily quest, this might be one way to do it if you're bored of the typical mono-red aggro, and you could also try the deck without Mishra's Foundry and Iganjo and still get more or less the same results. So yeah, let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play, and our hand seems promising. Turn 1 Lookout, turn 2 Mechanic plus Halo Hopper, and then double Reign of Truth to hopefully carry it home. Removal on Swooping Lookout would actually be quite effective at slowing us down. Opponent green-white. It's another creature deck, and Skrelv. Could be poison, as we find our own Skrelv. And that's why Vigilant creatures are so nice alongside Convoke. So, Skrelv versus Mechanic. I think we go for the damage output, especially against a poison deck. I don't expect Skrelv to be super necessary. If we had another Plains, we could have played Skrelv as well here. Jawbone Duelist is next. This plus Skrelv can definitely deal a lot of poison. But yeah, let's Reign of Truth. And then if I pump Mechanic, we can attack with everyone. Could also wait another turn, deploy 2 more artifacts. But I think getting Reign of Truth going is better. And if they want to trade, that's fine by me. Opponent takes it, falls to 9. And then next turn I could just pump Lookout with both Reign of Truths. They might have the 3 mana Sentry to exile one of my creatures. Just a bloated Contaminator. Yeah. Halo Hopper may seem innocuous, but pretty effective here as it turns out. Could block and trade for Duelist, but pretty sure we have lethal if we just bump our flyer. And then now we could even play Ginger Brood before playing Reign of Truth. Add another artifact. And our opponent explodes. That was a quick one. Okay, we're on the play. Our hand seems fine. Turn 1, go with Skrelv. Then turn 2, Lookout Ginger Brood. And then Lookout can get an attack in before we tap it for Convoke. And then we already have our finisher in hand, so it's all about just putting as many cheap artifacts in play as possible. Opponent on a white aggro deck. Okay, so play Lookout, play Mechanic. Thalia's next, so that's going to make our Onslaught a bit more expensive. Although with Affinity we can still make it cost double white if we have enough artifacts out. So it's actually not too bad. So we'll take it for now, since we need our creatures for Convoke. Reign of Truth will cost 1 more. So attack with a Lookout, play Ginger Brood, Convoke. Skrelv will be tapped for a turn. Could go with double Halo Hopper, or we can go 1 Hopper and not sure which is better here. A Mechanic pumped by Onslaught still dies to a 2 power first strike. So maybe Frontliner slightly better. And then we'll see next turn if we want to set up an attack with Onslaught or if we wait. This is their chance to exile Knight Errant with a Brutal Cathar while Skrelv is tapped. It's going to be a Peacekeeper to have a look. Once again, if they name Onslaught, we don't really mind. Name's Reign of Truth, so that's probably not getting cast this game. And they now also know about Plated Onslaught. So can just dump the rest of my hand. Maybe use Skrelv to get an attack in with a Knight Errant for 4. Seems reasonable. Was at 14. And yeah, Plated Onslaught incoming. Opponent's got a Vendor, that's fine. And another Officer. Okay, so should we do some math? Opponent's got 5 blockers. We've got double Lookout that's going through. And then they have potentially 2 profitable blocks, one with Thalia, one with Peacekeeper, but then they would still lose the rest of their board. And then I can also activate Ginger Brood here. Question is whether I activate Skrelv or if I attack with it, and I think attacking with it is fine. And then the +1/+1 may as well go to one of my flyers to guarantee that the damage goes through. And then we're gonna play that Onslaught. So the 4/4 Peacekeeper on Knight Errant is not gonna work out too well for them. Opponent falls to 4, and they've got 1 creature left. Can now potentially cast a 3-mana Reign of Truth. But first unearth Frontliner, and our opponent has seen enough. Well, that was quite the beating. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. Hand seems keepable. up against a red aggro. Turn 1 Lookout versus Skrelv is an interesting choice, actually. If we draw our 3 mana Convoke creature, then Lookout can get in for 1 and still tap for Convoke, so that's kind of nice. Opponent's got turn 1 Kumano, turn 2 Feldon opening on the play. So yeah, if we can win this, that would be awesome. Now probably Casket Feldon, and then next turn try and deploy the rest of our hand. We'll still be a creature short of playing Knight Errant. Adversaries next. Take 4. And a Swiss Spear. Okay, so Skrelv, Gingerbrute attack for 1. And then next turn hope to get these Knight Errants in play. We are pretty low. Another adversary. And the last card, another Swiss Spear. Okay, could have been a lot worse. Can at least block Swiss Spear with a Lookout. Take 7. And then step 1 attack with Lookout. And then if I were to tap 3 creatures with Knight Errant, I can find Halo Hopper, although don't think I can afford to really tap Knight Errant to play it. So at that point I may be better off tapping 2 creatures. And then I can keep Gingerbrute potentially available, although I guess I wouldn't have the mana to sacrifice it to gain 3. So maybe then Lookout to block Swiss Spear makes more sense. And hope to find another 1-drop we can cast. Alright, just a frontliner, did not have any other creatures, so tapping Lookout would not have made a difference. So now we've got 1 decent blocker. Still definitely on the back foot. If our opponent found any way to enable Prowess, we're probably dead. And then frontliner will also get exiled here by the etching. So it doesn't matter too much. I guess I should block etching with a Knight Errant. We're at 2. And now we could potentially gain life with Gingerbrute. So let's say I play another one, since for Convoke purposes it's kind of free. Then Knight Errant can tap Skrelv, Gingerbrute, a Lookout after attacking. And yeah, then we should still have a Gingerbrute available. So I can jump with it and sacrifice. Find an automaton. As opposed to sacking it now to be out of burn range. Opponent goes all out. Alright, we dodged the burn spell. Still at 3. And I played at Onslaught. Can that just win us the game here? We have 11 on the board, plus another 10. Yeah, that would be more than enough. So let's go for it. Well, did not think we stood a chance, but our opponent got a bit unlucky not to find any burn spells. And when it comes to creatures versus creatures, mono-white can often deal with mono-red. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. Our hands could use another 1-drop pretty badly, so we can play it and Convoke Hopper next turn. But it's probably not bad enough to mulligan. So yeah, any 1-drop would be great. Just a land. So we'll Convoke the Hopper. Next turn we can Convoke Knight Errants to try and find more cheap creatures. Opponent black-green. And looks like they've got removal here. Virtue, nice answer to the hopper. Another Knight Errant, not exactly what we were hoping for. So if our opponent just keeps killing our creatures turn after turn, it's going to be very difficult to convoke these 5-drops. And then we're eventually going to fall behind to the better card quality. Okay, Automaton, so I can play that, and then I guess I would be one short of convoking, so just gotta go for it now. That resolves. And then found 2 creatures, that's good. Opponent with a Herd Migration. So opponent a multicolor domain deck. And with this much black mana, it's possible that they're packing Drag to the bottom is the sweeper. -1/-1 for each basic land type. Currently would only be Swamp, and I guess now they're building up their basic land types. So it could be my chance to play that Onslaught while we still can, since next turn opponents with the planes would have access to 4 basic land types, which would wipe my board, which would not be ideal. So I can go Ginger Brute and then Onslaught. Which is not going to be lethal, but a good amount of damage. Opponent will probably wipe the board. And then we get a rebuild with Automaton. It's going to be an Invasion of Alara instead, alright, so not quite the deck I had in mind. So our opponent's going to fetch Quest here. And then hope for the best. Italy, one of the hits. That one's pretty good. But Cemetery Desecrator even better, since they get to transform Invasion of Alara. And then, yeah, it's going to be a disaster if our opponent's got a Flash Gorger in hand that they can put in play for free, thanks to the Awaken the Maelstrom. Opponent playing 1 copy of Go for the Throat as another 2-drop they can play alongside Bramble Familiar without messing up the Cascade. It's not really Cascade, but close enough. So at least no Flash Gorger, but opponent gets to take out several creatures. At least Go for the Throat not at its best in this matchup. And yeah, we could still cross the finish line with the Reign of Truth, making Ginger Brute unblockable. We'll get +3/+3, which is just enough to squeak by. Awesome. And there we have it, so opponent managed to combo off, but it didn't matter. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. Our hand seems keepable. Double Automaton, which will be able to grow quite nicely. So, Frontliner turn 2 Automaton, and then turn 3 try to deploy Halo Hopper. Not gonna attack into a potential 2/2 token from Virtue of Courage. So I'll just play Automaton and pass. And then yeah, against black-white tokens, our opponent's going to be able to stall the ground quite well. So getting through with an evasive Ginger Brute might be key. Finding some of our pump effects might also be important. Opponent with an Iron Crag and an attack for 2. So I think we want to deploy another Automaton first. Play Mechanic. Play Hopper. And then get a nice attack in for 4. And yeah, if we can top deck a Reign of Truth or play that Onslaught, we could do some serious damage. If they've got a sweeper, it's probably game over. Token attacks could imply Wandering Emperor, which can pump this, so I'll take it. And then, at least thanks to Ward, they won't be able to exile my Automaton this turn cycle. Okay, so play another Automaton. Go with the frontliner since I'm not activating Ginger Brute here. And then the 2 automatons attack, and I think that's it. Opponent has a Stroke of Midnight instead. Not what I was expecting. Fair enough. Opponent is at 11. Come on, play that Onslaught. Now they can Wandering Emperor exile the larger automaton. So, baiting out an Emperor now wouldn't be a bad idea. So this can grow up to a 3/3 first strike. So, how do I block? Still kinda tricky, since our creatures don't have much toughness. I could triple block Mechanic Hopper 1/1. That still wouldn't work since I kill Mechanic Hopper in first strike, and then we only deal 1. So there's no easy way to do this. I'll just take it. Another automaton, that's all 4. Okay. And then we're just gonna turn the team sideways here. No holding back. Have to decide what to pump with a frontliner. Ginger Brute makes sense since I would like to keep that one around. And then maybe the 1/1 token. Since the frontliner dies, we can still at least unearth it, whereas the token would be gone for good. So at the very least, Emperor exiles largest automaton. They can trade for Halo Hopper and still take a lot of damage. It's going to be a knockout blow instead. Opponent keeps surprising me. And another knockout blow. Alright, their opponent gained quite a bit of life. But they're still facing double automaton. I guess triple automaton, just 2 of them attacking. Opponent falls to 5. Just need to dodge a sweeper for another turn. And our opponent explodes. Awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. Hand seems keepable. And then we probably want a Ginger Brute on 1, since we're going to be tapping our 1-drop next turn for Convoke. Opponent on white or blue-white soldiers. Okay. We've got double Reign of Truth, so good ways to push through damage. Hopeful Initiate can potentially blow up our artifacts and enchantments, and they've got 2 of them. That is pretty scary. So I'm kind of considering a trade, so they can't train Hopeful Initiate next turn, but that would make my Reign of Truth a lot less exciting. I think I still take it. Another Halo Hopper. Is that worth playing? Might just be Reign of Truth, pumping Halo Hopper, and then activate Ginger Brute attack. Opponent takes it, falls to 9. So if all they do is activate Initiate, I guess they could blow up one of my cards. But a Brutal Cathar makes sense. Hopper down. And now they get to train. Okay, so we do have another Reign of Truth incoming. Could also play the Halo Hopper if we tap a creature with Convoke. So I won't be able to activate the Ginger Brute's ability. For opponent jumping, we might as well pump the larger creature. So start here. Play another one. Get our Halo Hopper back. And then next turn I can maybe pump Ginger Brutes and make it unblockable. Adversary can pump the team. But this is not a lethal attack. And a Glass Casket is perfect. Could have also gone full control here, target Ginger Brute, animate Mishra's Foundry, and then have one more artifact in play basically. Now we can just easily exile the adversary, so it doesn't matter. Alright, sweet. So good to see our plated Onslaught kill against monowhite, and now double Reign of Truth instead. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a decent hand. Missing some of our finishers. No plated Onslaught or Reign of Truth. Play the turn 1 Lookout for now. Turn 2 probably want to play Automaton before we dump out the rest of our hand. But I could already play Halo Hopper here after playing 2 more 1-drops. Which would set up a pretty explosive opening. Just means we miss out on some +1 counters. What is better? Going Frontliner, Ginger Brute plus Halo Hopper. It's probably too good to pass up. Although Automaton's difficult for the opponent to interact with, and then next turn it would pick up 3 counters. I'll still go with Automaton. Now our opponent, a multicolor domain deck, can certainly expect some sweeper effects. So those are gonna hurt. Convoke Hopper. Doesn't matter if we attack first with Lookout or get the extra counter. Alright, this is where a plated Onslaught would be the cherry on top. A Reign of Truth as well. Up the Beanstalk we don't mind seeing. Doesn't really impact the board. And most of these domain decks have a sweeper at 5 mana and not 4. So play double Ginger Brute. And then do we have lethal if I attack with everyone including Skrelv? I think I would be attacking with it regardless, since it's pretty much sweeper or bust for the opponent. But I think we actually have just enough to cross the finish line. Wow, nice. Turn 4 kill, but luckily did not face much interaction along the way. Okay, we're on the draw. Don't have the most explosive start here, but it does seem functional. Skrelv a bit redundant with the Automaton facing turn 1 Veteran. Still like Skrelv since we're not going to attack into the Veteran with Mechanic. Need all our creatures for Convoke. Also Vacation, gonna exile Skrelv right away. A bit of a setback, but not a disaster. Spellbook Vendor, a decent mana sink. So next turn probably Mechanic, Casket the Vendor. And then have a 3/3 Automaton left over. Which could play defense to prevent them from scrying every time they attack. I can keep Frontliner for next turn, since we can essentially play it for free when it comes to convoking Knight Errant in the same turn. I think I'll be attacking. If they've got another Ossification, they could pay Ward 2 and then still attack. And then next turn, Frontliner plus Knight Errant is the plan. If we tap 3 creatures, we could find Halo Hopper among the other creatures. Initiate is scary, and another Vendor. Yeah, with Initiate we have to be careful that they don't get too many +1 counters, or we could lose some of our key artifacts. Opponent hangs back, and another 1-drop is nice. So Convoke, tapping all my creatures. Finding Lookout and Frontliner. So next turn we can once again empty our hand, playing all the 1-drops first. And with a Knight Errant we've got a decent blocker, so unless they've got maybe an Iganjo, I don't expect any attacks. The Vendor is almost at capacity since they've got a roll on each creature. Can only have 1 roll token at once. Small chance they have a Wandering Emperor here. Usually don't see it in mono-white aggro decks because it's a bit of a nombo with Thalia taxing non-creature spells. So I think we still block the Initiate, and then we might see an Iganjo. Alright, that worked. So maybe our opponent's getting a bit desperate. Or has an Extraction Specialist to get it back. Makes sense too. Okay, at least we don't have to worry about Initiate training and getting more +1 counters. And this turn is going to be beautiful. Can attack with Knight Errant and Automaton, still convoke another Knight Errant. So we've cast a lot of spells on only 3 lands, and this is where we want to top deck a Plated Onslaught or Reign of Truth to carry it home, although honestly we may not need it. So Lookout can tap. Mechanic seems like the best blocker here. Double Reign of Truth is going to the bottom, of course can't hit those with our Knight Errant, but I'm still liking our chances. Thalia a bit late to the party. So we'll see if the Specialist attacks. Their opponent has 3 blockers back at a virtual 15 life. So they can just jump our largest creatures, which would be double Knight Errant Automaton. And then we have 4, 8, 9, 10 damage going through, which isn't quite lethal. So I think I'm okay with the trade here. Okay, play Automaton, play Frontliner, can still activate Gingerbrute. Don't have the best attack with Knight Errant since our opponent could double block, but I think we're at a point where we can just turn our entire team sideways. And then if I pump Knight Errant up to a 5/5, they no longer have a great double block on it, so that's an option. And then pump Frontliner itself. They can still block with Thalia or Vendor, but would rather have Frontliner die than, let's say, a Hotshot Mechanic, since we can still unearth it. Could have also pumped an evasive creature to guarantee more damage. So our opponent's got a few profitable blocks, but they're still taking a ton of damage. Falls to 6. And next turn, Unearth Frontliner. Should pretty much do it. Spellbook Vendor getting cheeky. A double block would be reasonable, since we would only lose Automaton, and next turn Automaton still probably not gonna pick up too many counters. So this seems fine. And then even without another top deck, I think we're in good shape. So Unearth Frontliner. Activate Gingerbrute. Attack all outs. And then we pump Gingerbrute here to get the evasive damage in. Opponent can chump, block, and then they should still take 7. Sweet. Alright, so we get to see this mono-white affinity deck in action. It's nice to play an artifact aggro deck with an actual affinity card in it, so you can call it affinity. And yeah, the deck definitely had some impressive draws. Having those explosive openings with the Halo Hopper of all cards is actually pretty effective. And then as long as we draw one of our finishers in time, whether it's our Reign of Truth or Plated Onslaught, we can usually cross the finish line. Sometimes if we don't draw one of those cards or can string together Knight Errants to find more creatures, we can struggle to close out games. But of course that's going to be the case with any deck. So that's going to do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.